Hey guys, welcome. Today is a special day because we are going to be reviewing the incredible movie Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. My pick, one of Jim Carrey's finest roles as a dramatic role, right? And today I'm not by myself. I'm here with some incredible hosts, incredible guests. We're here with Jason Eccles, Michaela Myers, and of course, watch, laugh, cry, Marina. And I picked this movie, let's say that, because it's a movie that I haven't, I seen this movie before, but when I remember seeing this movie, I was either a teenager or in my very early 20s. So it's a movie that I remember some of the things of what the movie's about, but I didn't fully remember the whole thread or how everything flowed or everything. So it was something I needed to revisit because I just remember being like, this is one of my top movies when I was a kid, watching a lot of movies of this type of genre. So I really wanted to revisit this movie. That's why I picked it. I felt it was in the realm of movies we were sort of kind of watching in this thread along in the past, movies we were watching in the past. But I want to know your first impressions before I go to mine. And I want to start with someone that hasn't been here in a while. Michaela.
Oh, hi. Okay, so oh wow, going first. Okay, my first impressions. I haven't seen this in a long time. I haven't seen it since probably my college days. So I don't know, 15, 20 years or something. A long time. Since around the time it came out. But I was excited to watch again, and it was interesting. It was an interesting journey watching it. At first I wasn't really vibing it for at first. I was like, I don't know if I like this. I don't know if this movie's for me. And then I fell into it, and I really just got so excited by the filmmaking and the story. The first impression is that this movie is a journey, and it was a journey that I was happy to be on. And I was also happy when it was over. But yeah, I had a lot of feelings about it.
Thank you for that, Michaela. Let's go with you, Jason.
My sentiments are very similar with Michaela's, like almost identical actually. So I originally saw this movie when it first came out in theaters, uh, with a bunch of college buddies, to date myself. And I remember, I remember I was with a bunch of actors, and I remember them crying. I don't know if I cried. I may have. I don't think I did, but I remember they were all in tears, and they were like, "Oh, this is the greatest movie!" I was like, "Oh, cool, great." This is the greatest hipster love story ever told. That's my first impression of this thing. Like this, this is Jim Carrey's. This might be his best dramatic acting performance. I remember, not clearly, but I remember him talking about this a little bit in the documentary that he did, the one about Andy Kaufman.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I remember him saying that he felt like he was manipulated in the making of this movie, and he didn't have good memories of it. And he didn't really feel good about it. He felt like, from what I remember him saying, he felt like, oh, so there was an actress in this movie who had a scene with him that they cut out. It was the girl who played his actual girlfriend that he talks about, Naomi, in the movie. And the director purposely, Michel Gondry, he purposely hired an actress that looked and sounded a lot like Renee Zellweger, because that's who he had
Oh,
just broke up with at the time. And so he was like heartbroken. And he says he remembers like meeting him, and they were sitting across the table from one another, and he goes, "Oh," he goes, "you're so beautiful right now." Like he goes, "You're just absolutely gorgeous. Please don't change. I can just see the heartbrokenness in your body and in your eyes." And he goes, "Just please don't kill yourself." Because they were a year out from making the movie. That's what I remember from that documentary. There might be more insight than that, but he just says, and I remember him saying, like, that's how fucked up this business is. He goes, that someone would ask you to like not heal yourself because you were heartbroken. You know what I mean? He goes, he was devastated after the Renee Zellweger breakup. And then the director did that to him. He hired someone because trying to like, pull the strings a little bit. And so they end up shooting that scene in the movie, and they end up cutting it out. they didn't make it, and the director cut that scene out because he felt the character Naomi, the ex-girlfriend to Jim Carrey, was so likable that like audiences wouldn't have seen why he would have broke up with her to get with Kate Winslet, because she was more charming than Kate Winslet, and their relationship seemed more charming. So he's like, we got to cut the scene because whatever. Obviously, the movie works pretty well without it. The movie it's heartbreaking. It's really good. It's really inventive. What I'm most fascinated about with as I was watching it though was this movie's written by Charlie Kaufman, and I don't know if we've reviewed a Charlie Kaufman movie before. Have we ever reviewed adaptation? If we did, I wasn't here for it, but I feel like maybe you guys did. Okay. Anyways, Charlie Kaufman wrote this movie, and I kept watching it like, I don't know how he wrote this thing. Like, I don't know. It's so inventive and so unique. But then I started to think about it like, well, I guess the idea of erasing your memory is not that unique. Like, I could get with that. I think it's the collaboration with Michel Gondry and how it's directed, with like the fuzziness and like the fading of the memories and things being wishy-washy, and remembering things maybe a little bit differently, and like all that kind of stuff that kind of happens with the human mind. That's very inventive filmmaking, and like I don't remember anything like that existing before this movie came out. So those were my first impressions. There's a lot to like about it, but again, I'm going to doppelgang everything Michaela said as well.
Thank you for
That's
that.
all, folks.
Thank you for that. Let's go with Michaela. No.
M's, all the M's. So I clearly was living under a rock in 2004. No, I was like 13, so I don't think I was probably interested in this genre at the time. Like, where's Mean Girls at? But
Mean Girls came out the same year, by the way.
Oh, that was an accident. I'm so
That was
brilliant.
04, yeah.
I love that.
But yeah, so first time watching it, but I was a huge Jim Carrey fan, so I'm surprised I didn't like go on to like watch it later. I've never heard of this movie before in my life. I was like, I wasn't even expecting him to be like the main character. But yeah, overall, I feel like my first impressions, I liked it. I like a movie that like keeps me trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Not as much to an extreme like Inception kind of thing, but like this tone is perfect for my mind. Like, because if it gets a little bit too crazy, I feel like it kind of takes away from the plot. But like, it was pretty cool keeping up with the flashbacks. I like flashbacks, flash forwards, and so I really enjoyed it. And I also like movies where there's a whole bunch of people in it before they got super, super famous. So just so weird to see them all in one room, but it's also really cool. It feels like you're at an acting class, just seeing some of these younger versions of people, and not even knowing that they all collaborated at one point. But I enjoyed it. I mean, there were some things that were a little strange, but overall, well, the way it was written and getting you into this mind game slash memories and love and jumping around. I really like how that was done.
Marina. Now, Steve, hey, first impression. I'll keep mine short and sweet because there's a lot of things about this movie I actually want to discuss. So, like, first impression for me, watching it after so many years of not watching it, is like I felt the same way. Like, I felt the same way in the sense of like, at first watching the movie, I was like, oh, I thought this movie was slightly more interesting, but it is one of those movies that like it has to catch your attention somehow in that beginning in order to like take you on this ride, and like and then everything starts to make sense. um and for example, something I didn't catch when I saw it way back when is how the 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 end is a callback or flashbacks to the beginning and all that
Mhm.
stuff. Everything connects in the timeline. like that was something I didn't get at all when I saw it way back when. Now I see it with different eyes, different perspectives, and everything. And I appreciate the movie even more because I just feel like, especially during that time of filmmaking, there weren't really that many movies that were like playing in that sense with like timelines, with like how things move across a story. Everything was very linear with the majority of the movies that were released that year, I feel. So I really appreciate that movie, and to me, I really loved, in particular at that time. That's one of the reasons I watched the movie, because at the time when I was younger, I was mainly pursuing a lot of comedy. So for me, it was very refreshing to see comedians essentially embrace dramatic roles. And I really wanted to study that a lot. So I would watch like him, Will Ferrell, other comedians that essentially they started to do a little bit of drama just to see if they can carry on those movies and things like that. And to me, it's very refreshing to see, someone that like essentially grew up in cinema, or we watched them along in cinema doing a lot of silly acting and silly things, here being very grounded. To me, that was is still very refreshing to me to see that aspect of Jim Carrey that at the time wasn't really seen that much. And yeah, so anyway, those were my first impressions. I want to talk before we get into like characters, scenes, stuff like that. I want to discuss with you guys this the main thing, one of the main themes of the movie, which is like erasing painful memories. If you had the chance, the opportunity to have a painful memory from your life be erased, would you do it? If yes, or if no, why? Anybody can jump in, whoever wants to go first.
I feel like I often think about this movie in concept. And I often think about like especially after I've had hard breakups where it's like, man, I really wish I could just erase this person from my mind via Eternal Sunshine. And after watching the movie, it's like, no, I absolutely don't want that. I want like all those feelings, and you know, I want to have had those experiences. Like that's what makes a life. That's what makes that's what makes your journey here interesting and special and important. And having hurtful memories and painful memories, like it's beautiful. Like that's part of it. Like I say that now because I'm not in it, but I'm glad that I'm not in it to be able to say that. Like those are really beautiful kind of things. I don't know if you guys ever seen the TV show Louis, the Louis C.K. show, but there's this great scene. It's one of my favorite scenes I've ever seen on television where he's talking to the back doctor. And the back doctor is walking his three-legged dog. And Louis is complaining about the love of his life, like leaving and going to another country or whatever, and how he can't do anything about it because what visa is run up. And he's explaining to him like how heartbroken he is. And the doctor's like, "You stupid lucky son of a bitch." He goes, "I haven't been heartbroken since 1988 when Lucille left me or whatever." He goes, "Oh, what I wouldn't give to be heartbroken right now." And Louis is so confused. He goes, "Why would you want to be heartbroken?" He goes, "You dummy, heartbroken is how you know that the love was real in the first place." He goes, "When you're in it, you don't know that the love is real." He goes, "You're just in it and you're having a good time." He goes, "But to certify that you were actually in love is when it's over and you're heartbroken, and then you realize that pain is like, oh man, that's all the stuff that I'm missing from this person. That's the love. That's the best part. That's the most human part." And I just love that scene because there's some truth in it, and it's kind of a different idea, and it's really brilliant. But yeah, that's my long answer to a very short question. I could have just said yes. Or no, I could have just said no.
Yeah, I'm probably team no as well because I was like racking my brain. I didn't know if you meant specifically like bad love memories, like childhood trauma, like so spelling bee you lost in the fourth grade, like do like what element of pain. But it's a tough call, man, because obviously I would love to eradicate some things that probably like shape me and it would save me some therapy time, you know what I mean? But like it's overall, I always say everything that's happened has like led me to my husband and my son. So it's like, like I'm okay. At least I'm okay now. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Because then there's another part of me that's like, would I want to forget like the crazy stuff my mom put me through? And it's like, but then if I forget, maybe I'll forgive her, and then she wins. So it's like, no. It's like
Yeah.
I want to stay mad and vengeful, but so
Yeah.
I survived it. So you know what? I'm gonna remember it. So no, as well. 300.
Yeah, that's a difficult question because I think the short answer is no for the same reasons because I mean like I'm the person I am today because of those horrible things that have happened to me, but also remembering those horrible things like when they get stirred up, it's bad. It's still something I struggle with. It's still something that I'm like I wish I didn't have to think about it or remember it. I wish I didn't have to like relive these things ever.
Mm-hmm.
But then taking them away from me would I don't know if I'd be the person of like depth and knowledge and interest that I am now. So probably not. Probably not.
Yeah.
What about you,
What
Steve?
about you, Steve? Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
I would say like younger version of me will say yes, totally. But like older version of me, more wise. No, things shape you. They make you who you are, and unless you hate who you are right now, then that's a different story. Maybe you make a different choice. But I love who I am right now, and I mean, the only thing I would change is go to the past to tell, younger version of Steve who's going to win the Super Bowl and things like that. But like, that's for other reasons. Uh,
Yeah.
but let's explore some of the main themes and topics of the movie. And I want to discuss with you guys what was the most visually striking scene for you, if there was any.
I have one, and I think it is not the most like exciting scene, but I do think that it's a shot that's referenced constantly. Like I see it constantly in shot decks. It's so beautiful. It looks like a Renaissance painting, and it's such a simple moment. It's this moment, probably about halfway through the movie. I'm trying to remember when it is, but it's Jim Carrey and he's laying in bed and Kate Winslet is laying on top of him. And it's like really a close shot. And they're both looking in the same direction and she's kind of got her head on top of him. And I think she said something to him. I don't even remember. But it is like a Renaissance painting. It's just they both look so sad. And like their world is like everything they do is a little off kilter. They're a little different. They're not like, they don't fit perfect, but they fit together. They're the same. They're kind of going the same direction. And I think it's just this beautiful shot of the two of them being these two odd people together. And it just like looks so gorgeous. It's not the most like exciting shot with like the disappearing stuff. There's a lot of like interesting shots in the movie. There's so many interesting filmmaking things that I loved in the movie. But I really just loved the simplicity of that moment of the two of them connecting in the way that they connect together. That is why they make sense together. And I thought I just love that moment.
Yeah, I know what moment you're talking about.
Yeah.
I thought about this a little bit because I knew the question was going to come up. And I hate to sound cliche, but there's a reason that the box cover of this film is them laying on the ice with like the cracked ice, and it's such a beautiful shot, and it's composed very well, and it's very deliberate with them in the corner, and then the cracks of the ice like off in the other corner, and it's just really, really nice, like composition. So I hate to sound cliche, but there's a reason they chose that as a box cover. It's a really great shot.
Mm-hmm.
Probably for me, like I can't think of like one specific like pause because I feel like both of those moments are very solace. They just like, but like for me, I think just like I really like how they adapted like his memories. Kind of reminds me of like dreams, and just like I really felt like whoever like creatively it was done well. I really like the scene where he's like a little boy under the table, and she's like, hide me in a dream that like, well, hide me in a memory where they won't find me,
Yeah.
and I thought that was really well done. Like, and I was like, oh, did he have a crush on the lady who babysat him with the cigarette? Like, did it like fit in that way, or is it just where he had to stick her? But like, I do like those memory glimpses very well.
Yeah.
I personally was going to mention specifically the one Jason mentioned, but just to go, I don't know, like in a completely different path and beat, because watching it now to me is just so outrageous to even think of a professional company doing this if this was an actual client. And it's when Mark Ruffalo and Kirsten Dunst are on top of the bed, essentially like dancing
In
with
their
each other
underwear, I think.
in their underwear, with Jim Carrey there, like doing
Watching.
his procedure. Like
Yeah.
to me, that was crazy. And also the the I guess the the reveal, which is I guess moments after or a little bit after, where like there's the wife of the main doctor that comes and like sees like them kissing. Uh, to me, like that was also a pretty good shot, encompassing that scene as well.
Yeah.
What are you laughing about, Jason?
It just triggered a memory. Sorry.
Um, well, let's erase that with this next question.
Oh man, but no, that dancing on the bed was pretty wild. I get really anxious at chaos. Like even in movies, like I can't watch things like Transformers and stuff where they're like destroying towns. And so for them to be jumping on the bed while this man is just paying for a service
Yeah.
with their stinky feet. No, I'm kidding. There were just so many things that were crazy about it, and then also too, like I said, I really enjoy seeing people that are like grow into completely different actors and actresses like play something so silly, like just like I never thought I would see Mark Ruffalo and Kristen like just jumping on a bed together and just like yeah, it was very interesting, or just even be like a pair. Like I thought he was like a lot older than her and stuff like too. Like I don't know, I still don't know. I feel like she looked really young for her
She was young, I think, but
Yeah.
it was exciting, like seeing these people that were like when we were younger, we were watching them come into their own as actors. Like we were watching Kate Winslet, like in Titanic, like be young and come up. This movie was like another big one for her that kind of made her more of a serious actor. Kirsten Dunst, we watched her grow up, and like so we watched these movies when we were younger with that in mind, and then watching it older, like watching it now. I was stunned. Well, I was stunned by Kate Winslet's performance. Like that was one of the first things I couldn't stop talking about. I was like, Jim Carrey, yeah, I know he's great, but like Kate Winslet, I always knew she was good, but watching this now, being older and looking back and having seen her whole body of work and like reflecting back on that, I'm like, wow, what she's doing is really stunning and striking. I think she's just making so much out of this character that could be so trite and could be so superficial, and she's bringing just so much depth to it and just bringing so much life. And I thought Kirsten Dunst did the same thing with a small part. I thought she was like doing a lot with it. So having looking at her career now and having seen her come up in her career and watching this again now, I was really stunned. I was like, what, she really was so great in this. It was interesting to look at them now with this different lens,
I agree. I feel like I agree with both of you guys. It's this may have been the first performance that I've seen Kristen Dunst play as an adult. It's like her first adult performance that I remember seeing. Because everything before this, she was a kid. Even like Spider-Man was before this, and she's like a high school kid, right? So it's like, yeah, this is her first like adult. So I think she's like in her early 20s in this thing. And then Mark Ruffalo, I feel like he was probably in his late 20s, very early 30s in this thing. So that's a thing. And Kate Winslet, this is the first time I had ever seen her that it wasn't a period piece, right? Like she's always like in some like gown or, some, period type of thing. And this was her first time, I feel like, just kind of playing a regular modern day person. And she's absolutely, I mean, Kate Winslet is terrific. Like you can't even count on one hand how many times she hasn't been great in something. So, I mean,
Right.
she's, it was really nice and refreshing to see her in this. I will say, as far as other characters go, though, like I kept thinking, this is like just post Lord of the Rings and what's his face in this
Elijah Wood.
Elijah. Like, so Elijah Wood is in this thing. I kept thinking, like, I don't remember thinking this at the time, but like me knowing a little bit more now, I just feel like maybe he was a little miscast because I don't feel he's not bad in it. Don't get me wrong. I just feel like there could have been another guy for me to hate a little bit more because he's the villain of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like I don't quite hate him as much as I could have, right? But he is a scuzz bucket, obviously. You know, he's one of the worst kind of people in this thing. He's a manipulator in this thing. Yeah, those are my thoughts as far as those, actors and characters. But everybody else, I felt like, yeah, they were right where they needed to be.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like Elijah was too young too. I feel like he also like I would have. I don't know. I don't think it was like a good pair. Like I don't think. Yeah, and just maybe. It was
I know
weird.
what you mean. I also think like he has that like bright-eyed, those big eyes that like give him this innocent quality.
For sure.
And I just feel like, and I kind of see what they were doing with that, but I don't think I know what you mean. I don't think it exactly worked. It could have been like a little bit more effective. Like, I feel like almost like the stuff he was doing, like almost got lost.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like it could have, all of that whole storyline could have been a little bit more effective with a.
Because Frodo's a good guy. You know it.
Yeah. But he's just like, he also just has that face. He looks like this like sweet, you just want to
You
like
trust him instantly.
Yeah.
He was the little boy from Step Brother, right? Or what was that movie?
Step Brother. Oh, Radio Flyer.
Oh yes, Radio Flyer as well, which I love. But
Terrific.
Step Brother, who was the little brother with
Oh, are you talking about The Good Son?
The Good Son? Yes.
Oh yeah.
Him and Macaulay Culkin, like the best two kid actors of their generation, probably.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I want to know the next question, Steve. I'm excited about the questions.
Okay, so here's one. Here's a thinker, I guess. Do you guys think that Clementine, what we see of her in the movie, basically, is that really like, is she really like free spirited and like an impulsive person, or is that just Jim Carrey's perspective of her that we see?
That is an interesting question. I have a million thoughts on Clementine, but I'm going to start. I feel like, this is like the definition of the manic pixie dream girl character. This role is the absolute perfect encapsulation. Like when we were watching it, I was like, this manic pixie dream girl. I like mentioned something to John. He was like, what is that? I know what that is. Like, what is it? And I was like, it's this role. Like it's literally this role. There are other roles that are referenced, like Kirsten Dunst and Elizabethtown, and there's other roles that are referenced, but this is the role that is the definition of it. And I think she does it very well. I think the manic pixie dream girl character is like, I think an intensely cringeworthy character. I also personally think that Jim Carrey's character, the sad boy, is also very cringeworthy. I get very I become disenchanted with it after a while. And he does a great performance of it, but it's just not very palatable for me. But I think that they're two great actors doing two cringy characters for me. And I think she does it so well and bringing so much, like making this character so round and vivacious and deep and rich and bringing just so much nuance to this character that is a very difficult, shallow character. Like Manic Pixie Dream Girl is there to enhance the male character. She's there to make the male character more interesting. That's what they do in these films. Yeah. That's what their purpose is. And that's what she's doing in this movie, is making him more interesting. And he doesn't have a lot. We don't know much about him. We really don't. We don't know what he does for work. We don't know anything about him. He's just sad. He's sad about his breakup. And she's there to make him more interesting. And he becomes more interesting when we see them interact together because she's interesting. So it's an interesting question because I don't think at all that she's a figment of his imagination. I think she is a real person. And I think that she really does act like that in real life. And I think that she's probably a person who's had like her own trauma or whatever that she's rejecting or responding to that makes her this way. I also think like as a device in filmmaking, she's there to make it more interesting. But I do think that she is, and I think that it's the filmmaker's intention that she is supposed to be this person, and she is probably the most interesting thing that's ever happened to Joel, or will ever happen to Joel. But yeah, that's what I think about that.
State the question for us again, Steve.
You're on mute.
You're muted.
Well, all I said was because I'm thinking about it again. You can repeat it, Michaela, if you.
He said, "Is Clementine like basically is she really this like eccentric, and is she really this character that's this the way that she is presented to us, or is she more like enhanced, or is this kind of like a figment of Joel's imagination? Are we getting like a part of her that's more dreamlike because we're watching this through the dreams? Is that right, Steve? That's kind of what you're saying?
Sort of, kind of like that, yeah. Like if she's like very, like if she really an impulsive person and like this free-spirited version that we see, or if this is just the perspective that we're seeing from Joel, what he has the perspective of her, and that's what we're seeing.
Right. That's a good question. So yeah, the manic pixie dream girl stuff, that's all there, 100%. Um, I, so we didn't touch on this yet, and so I'm really glad you brought it up because it needed to be brought up, and I might have forgot it otherwise. I think both of these people are dealing with mental illness as well. And I didn't notice that the first time I seen this movie, mostly because of the initial scene when they first meet. The initial scene when they first meet on the train, it feels very like charming, and she seems very forward. And here's a guy that she likes, and so maybe she, and they happen to have the same stop on the train, so it's like this meet cute situation, all done, well enough. And I just feel like the first time you see this movie, at least for me, and also I was younger, like I wasn't like too hip to like, mental illness and stuff. It just felt very eccentric and charming. Looking on it now as someone with more life experience, he's clearly dealing with some type of depression, and she clearly is too. And he doesn't have a very interesting life and boring, and that's probably fine for him. But then she comes in and she says firecracker. And she kind of turns everything upside down for him. And like, she is very spontaneous, and she makes him do things outside of his norm, and she makes him uncomfortable. And like all that's like, very exciting. Like Michaela said, probably the most exciting thing that's ever happened for him. For her, I think she's being very honest. Like she doesn't know why she's having these feelings or how to deal with them, but she says like, eventually I'm just going to get bored with you and push you aside and blame you for everything like I do everybody else. We don't know too much about her life at all. We don't know too much about her friends or, relatives or what else is going on with her. She just sort of feels like the type of person. They're in Montauk, and I had to look that up, and it's close to like Long Island. It's in New York. It had like a New York State feel for sure. But I looked it up, and it's like, yeah, these are people who like don't live in New York or whatever, so they're just on the outskirts of New York. We don't know anything about this girl. She could be like a club kid or anything. You know what I mean? With the hair, that's what makes me think of that. Like she has different hair throughout this whole thing, and like, the passage of time, we see her roots growing out and all that jazz. And I just feel like I don't even know if people have talked about it enough, like when they've like broken this movie down, but there is a huge mental illness component that should be addressed when thinking about this movie, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then just to kind of touch on all those thoughts, like I think like, yes, she is this eccentric, dramatic, impulsive person. Maybe it is a struggle. Maybe it's just her typical weekday personality. But I do think his memories obviously are going to have a lens. So if you can kind of compare those scenes, like what he has in his mind, and it changes through time too. As much as he wants to fight for her, you start to notice she becomes more of like a comfort to him than an annoyance. Like even in his own memories and how he's remembering things too. So yeah, I think there's a lens when we see like the flashbacks and stuff, but well, not the flashback. When we see the flashbacks, I think we see the real her when we see his memories. I think that's where it's a little bit more on however he's feeling about her in the moment, because it changes throughout the movie.
Right. That's an interesting point, because I do think like about midway through, she starts to become autonomous in his dreams. Like her character in his dreams kind of has like autonomy. She's the one suggesting that he hide. She's the one that's like they have like a new relationship almost within these memories. And it's a really interesting turn. So I guess that would be us like watching. It is his brain, like, since they're not real memories, these conversations with her didn't happen. It is him, like, it's his perception of her. So that is a really interesting question, Steve, and because that right there tells us that there is something about her we're really just seeing as his perception of her. It's really interesting to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the non-memory scenes are on the train. Non-memory scenes are when he goes to the library before he finds out what happened to her. And non-memory scene.
Barnes and Nobles.
And then at the end, the Barnes and Noble, then we see them again together at the end. We also see their real first meet scene, which is also, isn't it also at Montauk or on the beach or something? When
that was a memory. That was a memory.
Oh, but that was a memory. You're right. Yeah.
Was that a real memory? So like,
that's the plot twist. The plot twist is that that
was the real first time they met, and we think that the real first time they meet is on the train, but that's not. That's the second real time.
That's the second time. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's a question I have about the timeline, because there's something that didn't make any sense to me, and I don't remember having this question the first time. So at the end of the film, the tapes and all that jazz. She gets into the car. She has the file tape that Kristen Dunst dropped off everybody's house or whatever. Mm-hmm. And what I don't understand is, she was like, "Well, how was last night for you?" And he's like, and he's like, "No." She goes, "It was the best night of my whole life." What is he talking about there? Like, what was the best night of his whole life?
They went on the train and then they went to the ice again, right? That's when they did the ice.
That's when they hung out on the ice. Yeah.
Oh, right.
So it goes.
It's if you follow her hair color, that'll keep you tethered, because her hair is always blue when they re-meet, and it's always orange or whatever before, right. Or green. I think it's green at one point.
Yes.
But that's the easiest thing to stick onto is her hair color.
Yeah, and since I had never watched it before, that was like a Sixth Sense reveal for me.
Yeah.
I had a couple moments where I was just like, that doesn't make sense, because when they showed them meeting on the beach in the memory, I'm like, am I going crazy? Or is he like, and then I was thinking, is he crazy? That's when you start to wonder, is she even real? Because he has two.
And that's why Elijah Wood comes up to him weird and he goes, what are you doing? Yes. Right.
So it's so great that he's like, are you okay, man? What are you doing? And then later you figure that out. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, I can't even say anything. Shoot, I'm gonna get in trouble. Can't say that I know you.
What do you think about your own question? What's your answer to your own question?
To be honest, I was thinking about other questions.
I'm my own grandpa.
What?
That song. Anytime I see like time jump movies and stuff, I'm like, I'm my own grandpa. But anyways, that's another.
What is that? What's my own grandpa?
It's a song.
It's this old folk song about this guy saying that his son, someone in his relationship, marries somebody to marry somebody, so he's like ends up being his grandson.
His own grandpa.
Yeah.
I don't know this record.
I'll send it to you later.
Yeah.
It was a top 10 hit.
Link in the bio. I'm just kidding.
Well, moving on to another question.
Sorry.
If there's one thing you can change about the movie, what would it be?
Interesting.
I would have them dancing on the floor instead of on that poor man's bed. I'm kidding.
That was so disrespectful. I mean, not only the dancing, but then they're dancing in their underwear, and obviously they like have sex next to him. Like, it's so like, I do feel like if you've done that kind of thing so many times, that probably would happen with
Right.
people. It's just so like even that is one thing, but if they were laying next to him, passing a joint over his body, and they had like donuts and snacks on his lap, like on his crotch. I'm like, come on, you guys, like this
Yo,
is insane.
and shout out, now
Drinking his
that you said that,
expensive liquor.
shout out to Kirsten Dunst for portraying an accurate high person. You know.
Oh my God, her drunk acting and her high acting, I thought was so good. I
It
was
was
like,
good.
she really
It was good.
seems, she really had that like, I'm high, I'm paranoid, I gotta act normal. Oh my God, he's gonna know I'm high thing. I was like, that's difficult to do. She did it really well.
And then when he was turning around, she started laughing.
Yes.
You know, like,
Yes.
Yeah, Kristen Dunst is a really good actor,
Yes.
and I honestly, shamefully, have only realized that over like maybe the last 5 to 10 years. I didn't really
I
think
don't
she
think
was
that's
that great
shameful
before.
because I don't think that's shameful because it's not like she did the best movies ever when she was younger. You know, she was like, we were watching her as a teen. I mean, I love Dick. Dick is like, I think Dick is fucking great. I loved Bring It On. I loved like all the things that she did when she was young. The Virgin Suicides. I think she has a great body of work, but I'm not blaming you. I think that and she's also one of those actors that's just been around forever. I don't think people think about her. Like, I think she was great in Fargo. You know, she really held her own in Fargo, the series. But yeah, I don't think she's like someone that a lot of people think about. I think they forget about her.
Yeah, right. The childhood thing, and it's like you don't really judge kid actors too much.
Right. That's why it was so interesting, like watching her as an adult, like being like, oh wow, like she is a good high actor. Oh my God.
She's a terrific actor. It's just like I feel like at the time when I was discovering her, which would have been like, college, after Spider-Man, slightly before Spider-Man maybe. I just kind of remember like at that time when I was like learning to like first start being an actor, she's not on the list of people you're looking at. You know what I mean? You're looking at like the crescendo actors at that time.
Right.
She wasn't that. She was like more in like my age range, probably.
Yeah. I mean, she was always around, but she's not like in the Oscar club, but she's always around.
Always played very simple roles too, and they were meaningful, like they were necessary. You know what I'm saying? But like at the end of the day, her characters have always been like the girl that talks like this. You know what I mean? So like this was the first time they kind of made that a little bit deeper. I'll give it that.
I have an answer for you, Steve, for your question. I've been thinking about it since we were talking. Okay, this is a big change. Well, I have two things that, first of all, the first 20 minutes of the movie, 20 minutes, all this stuff on the train, I didn't love it. I was like, not really sold on the movie at first. I was like, I don't know if this is going to be the movie for me. I hadn't seen it so long. Once we got into the memory stuff, I really enjoyed it. I was really into it. So that part, I was like, I didn't even really love the filmmaking at the beginning. I thought that the shots weren't that great. I didn't like the color work. I was like, I know what they're doing. It's all blue, but like, I don't know if I love it. It's not like pulling me in. So I don't know if there was a way to like shoot that different. Like I didn't care about his character. So there was a lot of stuff at the beginning that it wasn't working for me. So I guess like maybe there's like things that I would change. But if I'm going to make one big one, and this is huge because it would change the entire movie, it'd be a completely different movie. But I think that she's such an interesting character that I would love to have seen the movie from her perspective, from her side. And I think because I think that she would have given us a lot more than like what Joel got. Like what we only got, like I said, we only like learned about him through like how he sees her or how she is in relationship to him. We don't know what he does for a living. I don't know his like relationships with people. We get like only two friends of his, David Cross and that other woman. So I think like it would be a completely different movie. And I understand why Charlie Kaufman wrote the movie he did. But like, I think that would have been so cool. It would have been a totally different thing. But yeah.
Are you saying you just would like the whole thing to be hers, or would you have wanted like
it would have been such a different film. But yeah, I think that that's the character that's interesting and fascinating. And I would have loved to see it from her perspective. And yeah.
Yeah, I think I would have liked to have seen her perspective as well, because and really shout out to Kate Winslet for it's all there. You could tell it's there in the actor's head. The only glimpses we get as to why she even underwent the procedure is she says like in the tape, like he's boring and it feels like he's making her boring and it's changing her. And like now she's dreading being around him, and she feels like she used to be a happy person before Joel came along. Which is like really, when I was watching it, I was like, man, that's really kind of messed up because, and I might be wrong about this in my, continuity because you guys just informed me about the, the continuity with the blue hair and stuff. But it's like, my thought at that time was like, bitch, you approached him and you inserted yourself into this boring man's life, and now you hate him for being him. But maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know.
No, I think she still did in the memory.
He approached him both times.
Both
like, you know what I
times,
mean? Like,
if his memory is right, yeah.
And so my official answer is like I could have used more context, like on some of like the non-memory. I didn't mind his perspective, but maybe like a vantage point moment that flips because once she listened to the tape, that's a pretty extreme procedure to undergo to want to really forget someone, and he wasn't like abusive. You're just like, he was boring and I'm tired. Like, just want to just ghost him. You know what I mean? What happened? Like, this is probably an expensive.
He really did ghost him. You're right.
But you could just do it naturally. Like, this is probably a very expensive procedure. It was just very, very interesting all around. I could have used more real stories and not so much be in his head. I could have used a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
So at the end of the film, when they're running in the snow, is that modern or is that a memory?
I think
like if they decide to like be friends or be together at the end, it seems happy-ish.
I feel like their whole. I think that moment in the stairwell when they're standing there, or like the hallway when they're standing there together, and she's like, they're telling each other why it's not going to work, and then they're both like, okay. I think that's such a nice moment because it's kind of like they're pre-solving the problem, I guess, by saying like, we know what didn't work before, and at least we're going in knowing this, and like, so we're both going to accept that, and still, it's more important for us to try than not try. So I feel like there's like this, like it is. I feel like that is real because there's like this. It ends like with this hopefulness of them like just doing it anyway.
That's what I took it as. Yeah. They had a fresh start for sure. That's so interesting. It's like people who pay all that money to get divorced and then they get married again. It's like, that's what I feel like. They put all that radiation on their brains. Just what are the odds?
He tells him that he's like, this is brain damage. Brain damage. And he's like, well, this is technically brain damage. What about you, Steve? What would you change if you could change something?
If I could change something, I would just change, Elijah Wood,
True that.
We just change it completely and put a young Daniel Radcliffe there. I will put what would I put for that role? That's an interesting question.
Today, if I could recast it, I would put somebody like Paul Dano in that role.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, like, would Cillian Murphy be like the right age around that time? Because he is that kind of like almost like a little creepy like vibe.
Cillian Murphy, who's that?
Cillian Murphy, who was in
Cillian.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Cillian would have been interesting. He would have been around that time, I believe.
Yeah, he might have been. I don't know if he was like in the
right in the crowd with the cool kids.
I'm thinking
like in the Marvel universe,
like older. For some reason, I'm thinking like to make that role, I don't know, to feel like really evil. I would put like, I don't know, someone like a Billy Bob Thornton or something like that.
Oh man. Maybe.
Definitely would have felt very evil with Billy Bob.
I was gonna say Robert Downey Jr. Keep it in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, Downey Jr. would have. He'll play everything well, though. Yeah, Downey Jr. could play it for sure.
Yeah,
he would have been young enough, but like still more age appropriate to her, and still charming. Because I feel like whoever had to be, he had to be like attractive and charming. Even like a Johnny Depp. I don't know, just a little bit. Just it could have been a little bit older.
I feel like you have to be like that creepy attractive though. That's why I make like Cillian Murphy or someone like that. That's like they're like good looking, but they have like a little creepiness.
Yeah,
You're like, what is it about them? You're like their face is all good looking.
I feel it gotta be old and creepy to make it like really hit because like it starts with like I got her panties or whatever. Like that's like
Yeah.
He's a bad person. Like,
I
and
mean, the
he's
shit that he
trying to
does is
insert himself.
the
Like,
shit that he does is insane. Yeah.
yeah, he's like he's restating Joel's lines. Like he's restating the things that Joel said from his heart, thinking
I
it's
mean,
going to work. He's a
technically,
bad person.
and technically, that's what woke up Joel in his dreams too, because he
Yeah,
heard that, and
yeah.
that's what.
You can make this movie as like a horror movie and do it like more from that story because it's so creepy and sinister.
Elijah Wood's perspective, yes, this is
Yeah,
a full-on
a
horror
full-on horror
movie. He
movie.
just got to hurt somebody.
And Mark Ruffalo's character was like, "Oh, that's weird, dude. That's like kind of unethical. Okay, I'm gonna go get high now." Like, it wasn't like,
Right.
All right, let's change the whole thing. No I'm kidding.
we have notes. Let's call Charlie Kaufman.
All right, I'm gonna give you guys some data real quick. So this movie's budget was $20 million in 2004, and worldwide gross was 74 million. On opening weekend, it made 8.2 million US dollars.
Okay. I have never heard of this movie before. It's crazy.
That
You've
is
never heard
wild.
this movie before? This is the
Never.
first? Wow. And Jim Carrey's in it.
I don't know.
I do feel like this is the movie that I think people started to take. Was Truman Show before or after this? It was before, right?
Before.
I
Before.
saw
Yeah.
that. Funny
It's
enough.
like Truman Show was like, people are like, oh, he can act, he can be really dramatic, and then this came, and people were like, oh, now it's like convincing us.
Yeah. This movie, this is one of Jim Carrey's more interesting roles to me. Like, I have mixed feelings about the movie now, rewatching it for sure, but this is one of his more interesting roles because he's not trying to be funny or anything like that. He's just good. He's just good in it. Top three for sure. Top three Jim Carrey roles for me. Maybe not movies, but roles.
Not for me.
No, okay. Let's do that. Just off the top of your head. Don't do too much thinking. Top of your head, what are your top three favorite Jim Carreys?
Ace Ventura, and we're just talking roles, not movies. Ace Ventura, Truman Show, I Love You, Philip Morris.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I Love You, Philip Morris is a good movie, but I think his acting is like absolutely sensational in it. The role is so exciting.
I just seen that for the first time, like I think last year, and I guess I hadn't even thought about that, but I have to agree with you, maybe.
Yeah, it's some of the most superb acting. Him and Ewan McGregor both in it.
Yeah. I was going to say I have to rethink it now because that's really a good role, but I would have to say this, Ace Ventura, and Cable Guy.
He's great in Cable Guy.
Cable Guy.
The Mask, and The Mask. Yeah.
Oh, The Mask. The Mask is also like, The Mask to me is like different though. That's like, I don't know. It's like childhood. There's something, I don't know. It's like a different thing.
That's
like
the
it's
one
impressive.
role. That's the one role that he said that he would do, like again.
Yeah, I saw that. He recently said that.
Him and Cameron Diaz should both come back.
Truman Show, Liar Liar, Fun with Dick and Jane.
This is hard. There's too many good ones. Like Liar Liar, he's so fun in. Like there's too many good ones. This is
Wait,
hard.
what happened in Fun and Dick and Jane? I feel like I've seen it though. I had to see it.
Is that him and who's it? Naomi Watts? Who is it in it with him?
Yeah, they lose their job and they start robbing banks.
Oh, right. That was the movie that came out during the recession.
Oh,
During
did
the
it?
Great Recession. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, everybody lost their jobs and their houses and stuff, and they were trying to make it work. I forgot about that. That was a good movie.
That came out 2005, right after this. Oh, it was Taya Leone. That's who was it. That's who was in it. Taya Leone.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, well, then that was before the Great Recession. Never mind. But yeah, it's spot on. The Great Recession happened 2-3 years later.
Wait. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dang.
Okie dokes. Before we get to final thoughts, did you guys want to ask, discuss, or mention anything about the film?
I would just say this. This is maybe the most mind-bending romantic comedy I've ever seen. I did listen to something earlier today that said that when this movie had its working title, before it was called Eternal Sunshine, which is from that quote from her, quote book or whatever, I guess. But the working title for this movie before it was Eternal Sunshine was When Harry Forgot Salad. That was the
Mm,
working title for the script.
That would have been funny.
that's a
Yeah.
fun fact.
Yeah. Not that I can think of for
Nothing.
stuff. We covered a lot.
I feel like I
Um,
gave my strong opinions pretty well.
Okay. Then, if that's the case, let's jump into our incredible, incredible final thoughts. Let's start backwards. So, Marina, no, Steve, go first. Okay. Thank you so much, Steve, for giving me the opportunity to speak. On the movie that was supposed to be discussed on my birthday, but it's all good. Um, Final thoughts. I think upon discussing the movie even further, I really think the movie is just like one of those movies that the more you watch it, and especially once you understand also more cinema and story and stuff like that, there's more things to unravel about the movie. Because, for example, I had no idea that Jason was still confused about the timeline. And, like, he clearly needs to rewatch it, understanding, like, once you watch it, like, the beginning, it's part of the end. And, like, what you're seeing in between were things that happened way before. And yeah, and once you understand, like, chronologically, like, what's happening, the movie does also get way more interesting. Because, like, I was confused again way before, but now watching it again, it's like, oh my god, it's like it's a mind bend in a mind bend. And just like Marina said, like, there's certain movies like Inception or whatever that is just too much, but when a movie does it like the right amount, it's like perfect. It's so good, and I love those types of movies, personally. um, I would totally recommend this movie to a lot of people, because I feel like even a lot of people are like Jim Carrey fans and things like that. This movie for sure will be under the radar, because I don't know if this movie was that heavily promoted, you know, but, like, this is one of those movies that I personally discovered just because I'm just like that, a cinephile, and, like, I look for the specific people that I like at the time, and Jim Carrey has always been like one of my top comedians. So I would definitely recommend it to a lot of people that enjoy dramatic movies, um, that enjoy those quotes that they share. Because, surprisingly enough, also, again, how the algorithm works, because I'm watching this movie, I've been getting hit in, like, my Instagram and things like that with, like, quotes and things like that. And because I'm in a foreign country right now, I'm in Brazil, like, I'm seeing essentially, like, stills from Eternal Sunshine and then, like, quotes from the movie, and it's in Brazilian Portuguese, and my friends are sharing it. So, like, this is a movie that has reached culture in a way that, like, even over here, people are sharing quotes about the movie now in 2025. Like, and this movie is like more than 20 years ago. So yeah, this has definitely had an impact on people. Probably now on streaming or something that is provoking that, because I'm surprised that I'm seeing that now. That doesn't happen too much with older movies, typically, unless it's like a massive hit. So yeah, those are my final thoughts. Let's go now with Marina.
Yay. So, my final thoughts are pretty similar to my beginning thoughts. Really well done, like timeline movie, creative, get in people's minds kind of story. I really enjoyed it. You don't see a lot of serious Jim Carrey movies, so really cool to see something from a little bit earlier on in his career. Not like early, early, but shoot, time has flown to where 2004 was a while back at this point. So kind of cool to see some hidden gems that I had no idea existed. And I would definitely suggest this movie to people who like to watch movies from like the early 2000s, Jim Carrey fans. And I'll probably rewatch it, like, now knowing the plot twists and see if there's anything I missed out on in the details, just kinda take that advantage of, knowing what was going on. And that was really well done. I had a couple moments where I was like, "That didn't make sense." Like, didn't they meet on the train? And a couple of other little things, but, like, it still did trick me. And I always give a movie an extra point for being able to trick me because I have control issues, so I think of everything. So I was always refreshing to get bamboozled by a film. So yeah, I really liked it. Yeah, I mean, nothing's perfect, but it was like I think it was really well done.
Thank you for that, Michaela. Let's go with you, Jason.
Yeah. So this is a movie that I probably will. I probably will rewatch this. I'm going to give it a little bit of time for sure, but I want to rewatch it for reference and probably to maybe get a better understanding of it. And like I said, I think it's really smart screenplay. It's an interesting direction that it took, and uh, maybe even a little bit ahead of its time with what it was attempting to do, which I think probably makes it special. Jim Carrey's really good in it, so I would recommend it to any Jim Carrey fans. I would recommend it to Kate Winslet fans. I would recommend it to people who like mind-bending movies, people who like romantic comedies. Uh, yeah, yeah, that's my final thought.
Thank you for that, Jason. Let's go with Michaela.
Oh, I think I loved what you were saying, Steve, about like movies that are like nonlinear and mind bending and that kind of stuff. And I do feel like this is one of these films that does this like mind fuckery the best. I think that the memory stuff was done so well and so interestingly. I kept going, that was awesome. That was awesome during the movie when they were erasing the memories and how it was done. The filmmaking was really exciting. And I agree, Jason, that I think it was probably a little bit ahead of its time, which is probably why it made such a big impact and why it is something that people still reference and talk about. So I think that, like I said, the first 20 minutes I didn't really love it. I felt like it was not really that exciting to me. But then once the memory stuff started happening, I got really into it. And I thought the filmmaking was just so exciting. And yeah, I think it'll be something I watch again. I do think it'll be some time. I really enjoyed that there has been so much time since I've watched it. And I liked bringing my experience and my life now to this movie. And I think it'll be fun to watch in like a decade or years and bring what I have then to the movie. So, but I do think it is for people that want to watch something that's kind of messed up, but that's not too difficult to follow. And for Jim Carrey fans, for sure, people who like Kate Winslet and want to see her in a really exciting role, she just makes so much out of this role. I think it's so exciting what she does with it. She's absolutely fabulous in it. And I think she just was stealing all these moments that she's made them fantastic. So I think for people who like her, it's something that they'll love. And for anyone who wants to feel sad, that's a good movie to watch when you're like, I want to be sad, or I'm going through a bad breakup and I want to wallow. This is the movie to watch.
Mm-hmm.
True that.
That is right. So yeah, those were the final thoughts of this movie. I only have one more question, and that's for you, Jason. You have
Yeah,
a question for someone typically here, right? So what's that question?
I do for you, Steve. What do you got for us next week?
Next week, I'm so glad you asked me because we are living in a new America, so I go again. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's Michaela's turn. Pew, 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 pew.
So next week, I picked a movie that I hear about all the time. It's something that like every time I see an actor on a red carpet talk about their letterbox favorite, they always pick this movie. I've never seen it. I don't know anything about it. I just know that it's supposed to be incredible. A Woman Under the Influence by John Cassavetes from 1974. I'm just like, I gotta freaking know what the hype is about this movie. So I feel like it's like something as a cinephile I'm required to see, and I haven't seen it. So here we go.
Our first Cassavetes. Let's do it.
Ooh, yay!
So a woman under the influence. I'm pretty sure Marina knows a little thing or two about that. So for Steve That's TV, Jason Echoes, Michaela, Marina, and the other people, we'll catch you next week. Bye bye.